road, seemingly in love. However, I knew it was only a temporary bliss. I am not considering harming this man due to my ethical, antiquated, indoctrinated beliefs, nor do I subscribe to an outdated notion of equality. True equality feels as unattainable as a rat being struck from one side or the other. Equality for one often leads to disparity for another, as those in power tend to favor one gender over the other, perpetuating conflict in the world. I am doing this because I have evolved and I have embarked on this path, because I have undergone a remarkable transformation. I stand as a representation of the next stage of human evolution. I am doing this because I have evolved and I have embarked on this path, because I have undergone a remarkable transformation. I stand as a representation of the next stage of human evolution. In a world where money is more valuable than life, the only option is to become the predator rather than the prey. They reared us, made us, and corrupted the weak to shape us into the strong, who will steal what they created. We are the pinnacle of kleptoparasitism. As we strolled along, I observed a striking transformation beneath our feet. The rugged flooring gradually shifted to a flawless, pristine white marble that gleamed under the ethereal glow of the ether lamps. Their soft light danced delicately upon the surface, enhancing the purity of the stone. The surrounding greenery seemed to thrive in this luminous ambience, bursting with vibrant hues that caught the eye. We wandered past meticulously arranged rows of potted plants, their leaves glistening with freshness, and entered a well-tended garden. Rather than traditional roses, a magnificent array of picturesque tulips adorned the space, showcasing a kaleidoscope of colors that painted the landscape with their cheerful presence. Each bloom swayed gently in the breeze, inviting us to pause and appreciate the beauty of nature in this serene oasis. As I drifted deeper into my thoughts, the world around me began to fade, and I found myself completely oblivious to the passing seconds and my own pace. The rhythmic sound of my footsteps faded into the background as I focused on the swirl of ideas in my mind. Just ahead, we neared a grand fountain, its waters sparkling in the sunlight. I noticed a woman walking her golden retriever approach from behind and graciously allowed her to pass. Her dog, with its wagging tail and playful demeanor, added a joyful energy to the scene that momentarily pulled me from my reverie. Turning my gaze, I caught sight of my reflection in the smooth, polished surface of the marble fountain. The fountain was adorned with a statue of Saint Asserin, rendered in exquisite detail. Its triangular shape gave the soldier I was following time to see me in its reflection, and for a brief moment, it felt as if he was looking back at me, the stone gaze of Asserin piercing me full of unspoken judgment. I smiled glumly, like a down-on-his-luck gentleman, and tossed a coin into the fountain. "May your light bring me luck," I prayed out loud, like just another sycophant and follower of the devout, before I turned on my heels to review the findings of today's tale. 8 a.m. Rajuel Alley, Darkspire Slum. Monologue. Mi zatnila vas kmarame. Mi slalavam manu daperabelv. Shte horsha. Show me wam zabispatula vorni ni krivdila nas. Ale krivdila vlasen dush. As the temple decayed, the garden remained immaculate, reflecting a society that valued beauty over spirituality. The statue of Saint Asserin was also in need of repair. After all, who could truly love the saint and not merely the water he provided? He was an ex-slave, a foreign man who died for the empire. Yet he has been forgotten in favor of the men he saved, who, in turn, have forgotten what he stood for. They have decayed much like his god's temple. If you believe our version, at any rate, Sinvella was a god who created the multiverse, and Asserin was a saint. The sin of splitting the multiversal tree and creating us and demonkind was not his, but hers. My apartment. What can I say? I existed here, but I didn't truly live here. It was unfurnished, save for an old dial phone, which was a rarity in the darklands. Any communication was closely regulated, except for those who could afford it. Well, after 7 lives, I could. It's the next day, and the only other thing in the place was a sleeping bag, and no one, If anyone even noticed, could tell I lived there. Monologue end. I fidgeted relentlessly within my cocoon of comfort. From deep inside that fortress of wool, I felt warm. Outside was another story. I liked keeping a low profile, and that meant I visited local shops to secure my heating ration by the home gas register less often. It was an older process of procuring for persons living quarters that became horrendously modernized. They made you queue for what seemed like hours in shops at different intervals. My day was meant to be Wednesday, but since I was busy at home, I tell you, while laughing ironically, since it was so freezing, the floor beneath me groaned with age, each creak resonating in the stillness of the night as I shifted my weight and rolled onto my side. A cool draft seeped through the narrow opening of my sleeping bag, making me shiver slightly as I reached out into the darkness. My fingers brushed against the hard floor of my apartment, searching for the elusive shape of my phone, which was ringing insistently. The sound sliced through the quiet. A sharp reminder of the outside world, and my pulse quickened with urgency. I strained to grab the phone, hoping it held news that would chase away the lingering shadows of sleep. The old dial-up phone, while antique, was more modern compared to the Linus 300, which had less of the contemporary complexities that I believed made it bulkier and more like a tank than a phone. As I answered, the cogs visibly shifted, unlike the Linus the Wasnak 10, which lacked any body coating or anything fancy in terms of design. I replied, "Hello," letting my voice sound like a bored shopkeeper's, deliberately disinterested. I waited for a response, secretly eager and not at all puzzled. It was a working day after all. The client's voice trembled slightly as she spoke, a mix of anticipation and fear evident in her tone. She had loved him once, and that history weighed heavily on her words. "Is it done? What have you discovered? I need it finished before." Her voice trailed off, cracking as she spoke, as if she were carefully choosing the right words to throw me off track. There was a palpable tension in the air, and I could sense her urgency, not just to succeed, but to remain secretive. I had the power in this conversation now, and I didn't care. She hesitated, her breath hitching in her throat, before catching herself and falling silent. The unspoken words hung between us like a fragile thread. My curiosity was piqued, but I knew better than to pry too deeply. My priority was the job, not risking it for the sake of the client's emotions or by being nosy. That I forced a strained smile as I pressed the phone against my ear, doing my best to sound like a genuinely concerned friend. Beneath the surface, a sickly thrill of excitement spun within me. If I wanted to, I could charge more or gain other advantages. I smirked playfully and nearly drew pictures of us in my mind. With a steady voice that masked my true intentions, I reassured her in a soft tone, "Calm down, Elise. We're meticulously piecing together his profile. After all, he was a truly dreadful man. It's easy to see why anyone would feel this way about him." I gently shifted in my sleeping bag, thinking that years of acting in Darkspire's Scalia improv theater had paid off. The soft fabric slipped away from my chest, exposing my skin to the biting chill that permeated the unheated apartment. The cold air wrapped around me like a thin veil, serving as a reminder of the winter night outside, but I continued to feign comfort. "So, please don't worry, my dear. Everything is well under control. First, I need to observe his habits, understand his routines inside and out, and then I'll know exactly how to make my move." Chapter 2: The Spider. In the gritty world of contract killing, simply playing the role of the observer is rarely enough. To truly zero in on your target, you need to infiltrate their personal circle. I was grappling with two glaring obstacles. First, my quarry had already locked eyes with me, an encounter that shattered any hopes of stealth. Second, my appearance was far from reassuring. I looked like crap. My eyes, as I mentioned earlier, were reddened and puffy, and I appeared pale. My clothes hung loosely, creased and stained, and my hair was unkempt, effectively broadcasting a careless demeanor that would send alarm bells ringing to anyone in uniform. To a soldier, my haggard look reeked of someone to be wary of. I embodied a dangerous unpredictability. The combination of my scruffy exterior and the intensity of neurotelin addiction left me teetering on the edge of failure, making the impending task feel all the more daunting. Neurotelin was a type of stimulant and injection used to boost energy levels. It was considered a black market drug that helped individuals manage their emotions and maintain steadiness. I could feel my body trembling uncontrollably, a desperate craving for another fix coursing through my veins like wildfire. Despite the remnants of my seizures still clinging to me, this jolt had left me feeling nearly impervious, at least for the moment. As I struggled against the relentless tides of pain that threatened to drag me beneath the surface, I felt a shudder ripple through me. It was a fleeting moment of resistance before the effects coursed through my body, washing over me like a sudden rush. With trembling hands, I reached down and picked up my wrinkled shirt from the cold floor, the fabric still slightly damp from the previous night. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the long, arduous day that lay ahead.